Good morning. It's before 7:30 Dallas time. That means it's before 8:30 in Washington D.C. and the East Coast. It's been a very disturbing series of events that have been happening in the last couple of weeks. Today there are set to be 7 issues to be delivered by the Department of Treasury. So far as I know, most, if not most of them at least, were already issued. But there's this thing that happens that I've been noticing for going on 2 years. I contend that what happens is there's actually serious fraud involved with an issue, and Treasury will reissue it. I don't know how or in what manner they contact the people who make the original purchases so that they can redetermine whether or not to participate, or if there's an option to say, well, there was fraud, so you're not obligated to this. I don't know if they do that. What I do know it could mean is that if you're trying to follow crime and you're trying to follow the sorts of things people are obligated to during this time frame, there's a very comprehensive sort of misrepresentation. Things that happen at one period in time, including things that might have a long-term obligation, can just be reopened. This is, I believe, evidence that there are people at very high levels that are conspiring with serious crimes. As a matter of fact, I believe what's been revealed in the last couple of weeks is that somebody has attempted to manipulate Treasury issues in connection with the anniversary on a certification regarding small businesses in order to set up futures to commit heinous crimes, specifically involving young people, and also to commit themselves to a course of action that seems to now go all the way back to the Civil War, of rather than actually dealing with things that were unconstitutional, allowing for illegal debt to roll over into new illegal debt, including in manners that actually support both financially and practically the material conditions for acts of genocide, or for what they want to represent at some point in time as being a war crime. This fits a very distinct pattern. It's very determinate. I believe it's 100% orchestrated. There are people that bet on genocide for whatever reason. One of these is something that's dated for my birthday, and I think it's literally in the way it was contrived evidence of this very fact that somebody literally in the last couple of months has been planning an act of horrendous anti Semitism that is about a particular kind of anti Semitism where you basically swap out who is supposed to be the victim of the next Holocaust. And part of this is because they had already banked on a particular kind of Holocaust and they didn't succeed at that point in time entirely. So they want to try to finish the job. Right now, the news items that are coming up have to do with, among other things, saying that members of the military had taken a commitment to resign en masse if necessary, were they to be put in a position where Donald Trump was going to orchestrate a coup. But there's also an announcement that Israel has arrested a number of students in the West Bank, I mean, in Gaza. And this is exactly the problem that has been ongoing for a period of time. There was literally, after the 2008 presidential election, a campaign to specifically and identifiably target people of Palestinian descent with the aim of completely disappearing and eliminating the Palestinian culture. There are a number of people in this country that were very aware and very cognizant of that plan. It's one of the reasons they haven't shut down Guantanamo Bay. Nobody's ever talked about it directly like that. The Department of State had an active conspiracy for several years to create a situation to traffic through the U.S. aid program, and in connection with distinctions between the Palestinian Authority and the Palestine Liberation Organization, in accordance with secret agreements that were presumably set up in regards to finance in association with the Palestine Liberation Organization. And I believe that it was done to justify significant targeting of the Palestinian people for opportunistic reasons. And the intent is to see to it that the nation of Israel, as a allegedly Jewish nation, is to be blamed for it. And yet, it has been aided and abetted and actively facilitated by that same allegedly Jewish Israeli leadership. My understanding is there were supposed to be certain accomplishments on that course that haven't quite come to bear. This pattern was absolutely ongoing, including the fact that the auction dates on some of these correlate with an alleged executive order put out by Joseph Biden on May 12th of 2021. That is one of the most heinous, irresponsible, and completely detestable actions ever taken by somebody purporting to call themselves a head of state. This has happened while there's been a regime change in Israel and while there have been premeditated and orchestrated acts that are meant to have a long-term implication, both within the Middle East, but also domestically. There have been 3 specific calls for a reissue on a 30-year bond. They intend to make a 30-year deal on the recapitulation of this act of genocide. And I personally have spent my entire life being put into a situation where long-term deals like that have been used to traffic me personally, so somebody else can use my life and my capabilities for their own advantage. And even if I serve those 30 years, supposedly I'm supposed to just have it rolled over. This is what happened in 2018 and 2019 to me specifically. And somebody had set up an obligation that long where they were entitled to use me and my life for their personal gain. And when the time came, I was on the streets and people just completely ignored me and they just signed up for another term. Year after year after year, they do this. And so there are a number of people who have been borrowing my life and the lives of other people, which, without them disclosing and being honest about that, lets other people who know how to see it know that they do not have the qualifications themselves and had no intention of doing anything right by the people they're exploiting. There's been very noticeable public information made available that without this kind of context don't really make sense. There's no reason for there to be the kind of public notices of commentary on certain issues by certain people unless it is, again, in accordance with this setup. I am doing what I can to let you know this is completely unconscionable. If it is a misrepresentation, for instance, that there was a mass arrest of students from Gaza for any reason, for instance, or these other things that are going on to create this very nice cocktail of possible genocide, then you have to say and do something today. It's completely unacceptable. It's gone on for too long. I am not Hillary Clinton. My name is Charity Krause. Please, get it through your fucking head. People, you used to know me. You used to know me. But beginning in 2016, you kept trying to get me to accept that you had already agreed to use me and my life for her benefit. The Clinton administration is implicated, and the results of the Clinton administration are implicated in some of the most heinous crimes that have ever fucking occurred in the history of mankind. Get yourself together. Get yourself together. Stop pretending. Stop pretending. This isn't just about Democrats, and this isn't just about Republicans. This is a failure of character for this country. The actions that have been taken in connection specifically with this, but not exclusively with this, that have been confirmed in the last 2 weeks have completely delegitimized the United States from any sort of international law perspective or anything allegedly constitutional. The Treasury does not have the right to do this. You do not have the right to do this. The Congress does not have the right to do this. The president doesn't have the right to do this. Nobody that's aiding and abetting this has the right to do this. You have to stop it, or it will stop you.